not seen them that close in any new project, so can you tell me how many feet away from the property line it is?
I don't have that information on my site plan. I can do a guesstimate based on the depth of the deck. So let's see.
Look like 12 feet.
Probably 12 feet. So if it's a 25-foot setback, that would be 13 feet. Approximately.
13 feet from the back of the patio to
From
the
the back
rear.
of the deck to the property line.
And what is the required setback back there?
There,
Yeah, the setback is to the foundation, the deck is not included.
Right.
Is how much?
The deck, the setback would be to the rear of the foundation of the.
Yeah, so
property.
how much?
The deck is 25 feet. The deck does not count towards that setback,
Oh,
although it is 13 feet from the property line.
but is the building then set back far enough?
The building is, we're required variance.
How much?
I think it's gonna be around 8 feet,
How much?
8 feet,
8 feet?
8, yes,
8.
For the
Sorry,
rear
John.
setback, right?
for the rear setback, yeah.
Okay, so let's just go through the list of what what variances would be required. We have the lot coverage,
Right, 10%.
rear setback,
what rear setback?
Pardon?
I was not aware that there was a rear setback variance of 8 feet.
Well, that's part of the height.
That's because of the height.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a variance.
I'm sorry,
on
so it's
height?
the height, that's why it was unclear,
Okay.
I'm
okay.
sorry, maybe
Okay.
I'm trying to be clear. So what determines, what the setback is it's either the 25 feet or the height of the building. The height of the building is more than 25 feet, then the setback is what the height of the building is. So we've determined here today that the actual height of the building is 33 feet. So there's a 25-foot requirement. So they would need an 8-foot rear setback here,
Not necessarily a height variance.
right? So if they lower the height of the building,
Then they'd be in the
So there's no
clear.
such thing as a height variance?
I thought there was,
Me too.
but I want to say a number that I
believe
don't want to
that-
spit it off. I mean, look
I
at the
believe
code.
that's 35 feet.
Right. The
That's what I
maximum
thought.
height-
So they're within that.
Yeah.
It's-
That's what I
That's
thought.
not a-
Right, but it's because of the depth of the lot.
Okay,
Right.
That the rear yard setback.
Right.
That's,
Sorry for,
okay.
sorry for the confusion.
Then you can disregard what I said about the height. I'm fine with that as long as it's meeting the code, which was, I thought was 35. When you said 25, I was like, that's
Yeah.
really short.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
I'm trying to be clear.
35 or.
35,
or
okay.
Or the depth of the rear yard.
So then really the only thing is the depth of the house. It is pretty deep. Is there any way you could take a couple feet out?
I mean, I've been through this with
Mhm.
owners because I am aware of the laws in this city and there's really no way to accommodate that program. The rooms are not particularly large
I understand.
and I don't know if they're gonna want to pursue a new home if they can't get the space they need on the
Right.
lot. So that's kind of the situation. It's a
Because
little bit of a
I'm
tight.
counting 9 bedrooms here, is that correct?
It's not quantity of bedrooms that's triggering this. The bedrooms are not the primary reason that I'm asking for these variances. It's really the footprint of the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. If you take 2 feet off the back on the first level, the kitchen, the study, the family room are simply too small. I mean, there may be another way of apportioning it, but I could see, I mean, they're kind of tight already.
And the project started as an addition.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been through this before where we've been asked to take 2 feet out. We're taking 3 inches out of this room, 6 inches out of that room. And you're just, I mean,
Right.
it's not undoable.
It's not gonna add, it's not gonna add 8 feet to the,
No, you're not gonna get 8 feet out of here, but I'm asking, is it possible to take at least, 2 feet out? So that I mean, it just sticks way beyond the house next door. That. Again, it's not the lot coverage I'm looking at, it's really just how far back it goes. I think you had that on one of these drawing, no, it was the last page on the site plan. The hatched in area is what's proposed. And it just looks like, I don't know, 10 feet beyond the other house.
to discuss it with the owners because um, there might be other ways of doing this that would be less bad for them.
Yeah.
So, like reducing the height of the house, eliminating the, like, I don't know, but those are other options. I want them to have the freedom to explore. I don't necessarily think they're gonna love the idea of taking.
I'm
away,
sure, I mean, that's,
Especially, it's
I
just.
get it,
right.
it's just, we have to look at the surrounding
Right,
context too, so
right.
it's not just the
I
applicant that
understand I
I
certainly.
want this to be a success, but I have to look at it from a larger.
Yes.
here. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rock. Mr. Ratchet?
Yes. You missed it, John. The basement. 2 bedrooms down there.
Yeah, that's where I got 9.
It's my understanding we don't allow basement bedrooms, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Without a variance.
And if we gave them a variance, there's another problem as to the means of egress and ingress, which we would require to be approved by the fire department.
I think that's right.
Yes. I've been before the Board of Zoning Appeals with basement bedrooms in the past, and there is a process for getting those approved in the city.
There are.
And they've become more common now. I mean, I don't want to say every house in the last few sessions we've had, but most of the properties we've seen have had basement bedrooms. I don't have a problem with that. It's becoming more common.
The BZA has a review that they do of that, that occasion, that will lead occasionally to that variance being approved by the BZA.
right. There's usually safety requirements and, including the egress and stipulations, it's not gonna be rented out, those types of things.
Wouldn't they have to come back though to, for us?
No.
planning,
No,
For approval of fire? Of the, means of ingress and egress from each of those bedrooms?
no, it doesn't have to come back here for that. That will have to be handled at BZA and I know our fire chief is here. Chief Perko, do you have anything you'd like to add to that? Yeah, I mean, in those instances, either the chief or the fire prevention officer generally attends and works through any concerns.
We had this happen on Milton and it came back to the planning commission for
Okay,
the fire. Yeah, we had to go with that. Even if they get waiver.
I mean, I do see here that there's window wells for those bedrooms. So in the event of a fire, the occupant of that room would be able to
Right.
exit through the window into
Is
the
that
window well.
sufficient?
That's
I
what
mean, when
our
the fire-
code
it's the residential,
says.
it's the residential code of Ohio
Yeah.
that dictates the dimensions of that window and the need for steps, emergency escape. Is in building code and that would be reviewed for compliance.
So even if they get the variance, they gotta come back for that, or at least somebody's gotta prove it, the fire.
Right, the building department could do that.
yeah, I don't think it's going to need to come back here for that. It will need to go to BZA. It's going to have to pass muster of the Fire Prevention Bureau and the fire department. Is there any public comment on this item? Any deliberation by the panel?
I mean, I stated my comments,
Mhm.
it's just a little large, looking at the neighboring houses, it's slightly larger.
It is.
And it's almost double from the existing home. I would like to see a couple feet taken out. I don't often say that. It's just because it's larger than the houses on either side. Potentially in height, certainly in, depth, and then in lot coverage. We do give variances for lot coverage. I'm not sure we do 10%. We've gone, several percent, but 10. It's quite a bit. So it's just something I would like to see. Maybe if you could come back with a new plan, and this is just my opinion, and I'd like to hear my colleagues weigh in on that, a new plan that maybe takes 2 feet out of the depth of the home. That would, I think, lessen what is going on here in terms of lot coverage, depth, and your rear setback.
Mr. Rock, as far as direction you would give here, 2 feet of depth, is there an alternative with respect to the height? I mean, I'm looking at the angles on the front and it would substantially change the way it looked if you lowered the height of the house, I think. But I nevertheless wanted to raise that as we're giving direction here.
If you change the height, then your, sounds like from the calculation, your rear setback requirement would be less.
Right.
I guess for me, I'd want to see the front elevation with the neighboring homes elevation. I think you may have to come back. I would like to see what you drew here, your front elevation, and I want to see the house on either side's elevation with those heights. So I have a better understanding of what that skyline looks like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and I would add that, well, it is taller than the neighboring homes. That isn't necessarily insurmountable. So, it's a, because it's a smaller lot, as Mr. Rock has pointed out, if finding a way to tighten it up just a little bit could make a difference here with regard to how it's situated with the other homes on the street, both from the way it looks from the curb and given, the backyards. So, the house in and of itself, I rather like, but in the context of where it is, I see Mr. Rock's point.
Shaving off 2 feet in the back is not going to have any impact on the front elevation. Just
Well, I mean,
Sure. And I don't necessarily
disregarding the roof.
have an issue with the front elevation myself.
And I don't think it would be hard to take a few feet out. I mean, it looks like you could take, 4 to 6 inches out of the garage, 6 inches out of kitchen, 6 inches out of the breakfast area. I mean, right there, I just saved you 1.5 feet. Couple inches out of that hall. It's not gonna be hard. It's something I have to do all the time, so.
would it be possible to conditionally approve the project with 2 feet off the back? I just want to keep the project moving and not wait another month.
I certainly sympathize with that, but I want to see what there's 2 houses on either side elevation. Plus, we're not quite clear on all the dimensions with the site plan of how far that patio is from the back. And I'm looking at the elevation from the back and side. Is that, because it looks like there's siding along the back of the bottom of that porch area?
It's a skirt.
It's a, so is it permeable? Does the rain go through that decking then?
Yeah, it's
So it's not a solid
it's a
structure.
wooded deck with an apron on it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm weighing the possibility of conditionally approving. I looked on, Google Maps and saw, the current house, the houses next to it, and used my imagination some. It will be bigger, but I don't think it's offensively bigger. It doesn't. But I realize that's just one person's opinion up here.
Still has to go to BCA, doesn't
It
it?
would still have to go to BZA. I think it still needs to go to ARB. It still needs to go to council. So,
The project is scheduled for BZA and ARB.
So, if we had tabled this, then will the applicant still be able to go to BZA? Again, if they are comfortable with the setback and the lot coverage, then I think that would give me a little more, insight in my decision making. And then the project can continue to move along.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why, a project could get a BZA approval and then appear in front of planning. If they had appeared in front of planning once and it was tabled or someone didn't show, then we could probably, proceed with the rest of the development review, BZA, ARB.
Yeah.
I mean, if planning decides not to approve it after they get their variance, Brad, how would that happen?
It wouldn't be approved then. I mean, the planning commission would have to, has to approve
So-
the site plans.
So planning
Yeah.
is not bound by a BZA approval.
And the bedrooms still have to come up before BZA, right?
Yes.
well, that's true too.
Correct.
Yes. I mean, they're going to BZA regardless, so.
And I understand that. It's just, this is one of the larger homes for a lot of this size. So it's just not what we've been typically seeing. I think, the next applicant has a home that's within the footprint of the existing home. So that's what we've been seeing is some of these replacement homes. It has less of an impact of what was there. So I think if I have a better understanding how BZA feels, I think I'd be more inclined to follow through with that, since the sticking points here are the variances.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Mr. Rock. If the BZA looks at the setbacks, the height, the lot coverage variance and finds them appropriate, then I would be disinclined to second guess the BZA. So,
But other than that, I'm okay with, moving forward with the project. You're gonna be demoing a home. That's what we're reviewing, whether to give you permission to demo a home and a site plan approval. Other than the sticking points here,
Right.
I think you understand that the temperature of the room is that we're probably gonna follow through with that.
so I think a conditional approval, conditioned upon the BZA granting the variances. I think we could do that. I think that's something within the realm of the possibility consistent with what's the applicant's requested, and I think it meets your concerns.
And then if they don't approve the variances, would it come back to
Come back,
planning then?
yes.
So we could,
Well, I don't know if it comes back to planning or if they simply
They're gonna have to go back to.
go back and
BZA
draw
to
something
the
else.
BZA,
Satisfy the BZA.
to satisfy the BZA, and then, okay.
Okay, what?
You want to make the motion?
I'm still not quite comfortable. I think
I'll
what
make
I
the
had mentioned earlier, having to go to the BZA,
Mhm.
hearing what, if they're okay with that lot coverage, because it is a significant amount,
Mhm.
then.
Well, that's why I was saying conditional approval if they granted those things. If they don't grant them, well, then they didn't meet the condition of the approval.
Understanding that, but then I feel that I'm not doing my full due diligence here.
Hmm.
By just not here.
You'd rather table and
I'd
let them
rather
go to
table,
BZA
yeah,
and
let
see
it
them.
continue to
and
move through the
See them next
process.
month.
Go to ARB, go to BZA. You're not gonna slow us, you're not slowing the project down. I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. that's
Not by
all.
much.
The filing process work for another planning meeting? Do I have to? Does that have to be publicly advertised? How does it work? Do I just come back at the next
There's no
meeting?
active fee.
No, I think if we
In terms of
table,
Timeframe,
Yeah,
meaning I'm gonna keep doing whatever I need to do
right,
for BZA and ARB.
Right.
And then the next month will come along and I'll be back here.
Yeah.
and you should be back on for the June meeting unless you were to call us and say for some reason you didn't want to be on,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
like you were not available or some other happenstance.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And then you would have an opportunity to make some revisions that the BZA might suggest.
Right.
Sure.
All right, so do we want to make a motion to table for the purpose of
Mhm.
getting further input from the BZA or?
Yeah, so moved. Is that sufficient for you, Kelly?
Yeah, I'll dress it up. I'll dress it up a little bit.
Okay, well, we can do better than that. Mr. Rector, do you want to make the motion?
I'm just gonna make a motion to table the application so that it can go before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Oh, I'll second.
There's no further discussion. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mayor Brennan.
Yes,
Mr. Rycheck,
Yes,
Mr. Rott.
Yes.
thank you. We'll see you soon. Next item is item B, application from Dries Homes for Shlomo and Edelstein seeking approval of recommendation to City Council for the demolition of the existing house at 2530 Claver Road and the approval of site plan for the construction of a new single-family dwelling.
Just for clarification, so, my understanding is this has already been to the BZA and the ARB and you've received approval.
Good evening, George Pileski, Market Manager at Dries Homes. You are correct. This has already been through the Board of Zoning Appeals and through the Architectural Review Board process. All requested modifications have been provided on the prints and resubmitted to the city. So we are just seeking permission from Planning Commission for moving forward with the project.
There was a lot coverage variance granted, Mr. Burley.
Yes,
is that
the
correct?
variance granted was a 2.3% variance towards the lot usage. 25% maximum, they're proposing to use 27.3%. And then special permits for sleeping rooms, bedrooms in the, is there a kitchen? I'm not. And a kitchen,
Not,
not a.
not necessarily a kitchen. We just have it down there as kind of like a pantry area, but there's a wet
Right.
bar. It's just for if guests come over, if they want to heat up a water bottle, baby bottle, that type of thing. That's no appliances.
It was determined there's no appliance,
Correct.
so it's just bedrooms in the basement.
That was the only variance that was required. And then what, you said there were some adjustments made to the plan since we last saw it.
Yeah, from the Architectural Review Board.
Oh, okay.
Everything that was requested at the ARB was actually drawn and resubmitted.
So it was more cosmetic, nothing
It
with
was
footprint.
Nothing footprint.
Okay, and then as I looked at the site plan here, I'm seeing the new home, which is drawn in a dark line overlaid on the existing home, which is a dashed line, doesn't look that much bigger than what was there. It's within the setbacks. And then that, the lot coverage you said was 2%,
2.3.
2.3, which was minimal. So I had no problem with that.
what is the status of the bedrooms? Did you say they were approved?
Yes, they've received the variance from BCA to have 2 bedrooms in the basement.
And you're going to assure there's proper ingress and egress pursuant to the Ohio Building Code or whatever they call it today?
Precisely, yeah. The plans are reviewed against the 2019 of Residential Code of Ohio.
Very good. Ms. Mockby, did you have anything to add?
No, they did make comments or revisions with my first comments, and then I just had, my only like really outstanding one was the existing curb in front of this house. If you have to do any replacement, it's just gonna match that existing curb that's out there.
Yeah, the form
That-
existing, yeah.
Yeah, the detail and what's there might not be the same. I think.
It's a little bit of an older detail.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mhm.
I understand.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Any public comment on this item? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation to city council for the demolition of the existing house at 2530 Claver Road and the approval of the site plan for the construction of a new single-family dwelling.
I'll second it.
Subject to a development agreement of the posting of bond?
Right, subject to a development agreement and posting a bond.
Very good. And you still second?
I second it.
Very good. Any further discussion on this item? Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mayor Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rycheck,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our thanks to the Steins for investing in our community and choosing to continue to make University Heights their home. Thank you. Needed coffee. Okay, the next item is item C, application from Nome Adler seeking approval of recommendation to City Council for the following. One, a special use permit pursuant to Chapter 1274 for the property at 4310 and 4316 University Parkway and 2414 Elmdale for House of Worship in a U1 residential zone. Two, demo homes on all 3 lots. And 3, lot consolidation of 3 parcels into 1 parcel. If the applicant could identify himself.
Noam Adler.
Thank you. And because this is a hearing under 1274, it is treated as a quasi judicial hearing. One may bring witnesses and there's a swearing or an affirmation of oath for these proceedings. So if Mr. Bryan, if you could give an affirmation here to Mr. Adler.
Mr. Adler, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury? Thank you.
So affirmed. Thank you. Mr. Adler, you may proceed.
Okay, so we've been working with the mayor for the last, year and a half,
Wow.
quite some time.
Yes.
To bring the synagogue that's on one of the front lots to up to code and standards. And after many conversations with the mayor advised us to go from the current structure to say rather to take over all 3 lots instead of 1. We were originally just looking to keep it and do on the original house that it is, but after the advice from the mayor, I think the building commission, everyone we met with, that was advice was to go through all 3. So that is the plan we're bringing ahead today. The city, planning commission, and looking for open questions and clarification. Like that.
Okay, very good. Very good. Who would like to go next? Mr. Rowe.
Did the building department give you any kind of guidance on what to present to us today? I only see a site plan, there's no like elevations or, I just see a box. Like,
Okay,
what does this thing look like?
I mean, we have early renderings of it, but we
Okay.
want to sort of make sure that that's the footprint was in the was palatable for the planning commission. Or going to a full architectural design of the sites to make sure that.
Okay,
We
so
didn't
you,
want to get ahead of ourselves and be like, this is what we want to do, and find out later on that.
so you're really here more from a preliminary standpoint
Correct.
to see if this is a direction that you should go. Are we comfortable combining 3 lots,
Exactly.
put in a parking lot?
Everything involved.
But then if we give that feedback, then you would
Come back and.
come
yeah.
back. Okay. That was the first thing. 'Cause I'm like, I don't know what this thing looks like. I
Yeah,
gotta
you
see.
could treat it as like preliminary.
So
like-
preliminary.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, I'll just be really frank with you.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
This body has seen several shoals come before us for approval, for places of worship in the home. I have no problem with that. I'm on board. I have no problem with that. There's a little, this is a commercial building from if I'm gonna put my imagination towards it, I mean, I don't see what it looks like, but it's what it's becoming with the parking lot. So it sort of goes beyond what we've seen. It's taken it several steps further than what we have seen in the past. I have to be consistent. I have no problem with the program of, you know, place of worship in your home. I have no problem with that. I just have to be consistent. And I have actually rejected applicants in the past that want to remove homes for use of green space, to not build a home. And I can think of nothing worse than removing a house just for a parking lot. So I have a little bit of angst on removing one house on, I think it's Elmdale for a parking lot. It's not gonna generate any taxes, certainly not gonna generate income tax. So I struggle with that, and it's because it's in the middle of the neighborhood.
Different time to knock down 5 houses, that's on the end of the neighborhood.
Because it's on green, yeah, it's a totally different format there, you know, green. Although I think that was still considered U1,
It was a U1.
It
on
was a
Green
U1
Road where
district.
Zichronheim was
Um,
built.
but being a main road, I'm okay with commercial structures there. This is within the U1 district in the middle of it. So I'm having a little more difficulty with that.
Okay.
If you were to come to us for a special use permit for a place of worship in your home, I'd be consistent and I'd probably have no problem with that. But because it's 3 houses going away, that's where I have a little bit of struggle with that, if that makes sense.
If I may. We have, well, Zichronheim is one example that's been brought up here, and there were, I think, 5 houses that were taken down to build something, to build a commercial structure. And granted, as Mr. Rock has pointed out, that being on Green Road, you know, there are some preferences with regard to under 1274 with regard to certain streets in the community. But at the same time, there is another precedent, and that's Alexander Schul. And Alexander Schul is under construction now as a commercial grade structure. And for various reasons, it is on only one lot and doesn't have much by way of on-site parking, which stands as a sort of an outlier here too, but at the same time, you know, needs to be brought in as for consideration here. It is in the neighborhood. It is not on Green Road or Warrensville Center Road or Cedar Road, doesn't have any facing onto Fairmount or Taylor Road, which I think are the streets that are all covered here. You know, we do know that there's been a parking problem in the neighborhood related to the unlicensed operation thus far in the vicinity of the site. And we know that we have precedent in the city for approving, as we did with Alexander Schul, a commercial grade structure in a residential neighborhood, notwithstanding what Mr. Rock has said. So that said, you know, we do know that we have had issues here in the city where if a congregation exceeds around 50 or so people, and it's kind of a guideline more than a firm rule from the state with regard to a house of worship, then at some point we are making a change from residential grade structure to commercial grade structure with regard to the degree of use. When you have 70, 80, 100 people or more using a residential home as frequently as one does when you have a shul in it, that is hard on the construction itself. It's hard on the structure. Even at the time by the time Alexander Schul by the time the previous building was demoed, it was pretty worn out. And in my view, was confirmation of why we shouldn't want to use residential structures generally for these purposes, because it wears them out. It doesn't last, it doesn't withstand, especially if you have a congregation of more than a couple dozen people. So in my view, what you've proposed here is within the realm of the possible. But at the same time, I'm only one person up here. And there's other considerations besides, and they're the same considerations that have come up in other instances with regard to being in the residential neighborhoods and so on. I appreciate the idea that, you know, tearing down a home for a parking lot is not typically something I'm fond of, but when it comes to building community, even if we lose 3 homes for the purpose of a house of worship within a neighborhood which supports the people that live in the neighborhood, then I think that's something this body has to at least consider and weigh on a case by case basis. So I appreciate, you know, what you've brought here. I know we're going to hear from some folks in the neighborhood, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say as well. And I'm also looking forward to hearing what the rest of the commissioners have to say. So I don't know if you have any comments you want to make at this time, Mr. Rychek? Or if you would rather I go to the building official.
The schematic here, I thought it was a new building they were gonna put up.
Well, yes, it is. It is. There would be 3 homes that are taken down and a new building, but what we're seeing is generally a footprint. We're not seeing elevations right now. We're not seeing what it would really look like. A lot of this is being presented on informational basis at this point. Depending on the direction they get here, they may go back and draw some more or go in another direction.
And what would the parking variant, what would the number of parking spaces be required?
Okay, so I can provide my report, which includes that information, if you'd like. in
Why don't-
regards to the setback.
Yeah, why don't we go through Mr. Bartley's report on the variances that would be required? I know parking was one of them. And then rather than doing those piecemeal.
Well, okay.
Okay, all right, Mr. Bartley.
Yeah, so the building department received plans for, the construction of a place of worship at 4316 University, 4310 University, and 2413 Elmdale. The plans that were submitted were based on what was required in developmental list. Engineered drawings are not a requirement that would usually have elevations in them. But it did, the plan submitted did provide enough information to conduct a review. Initially, a variance would be needed from BZA to have a 8-3 house of worship in a U1 zoning district. It would also need, there is a proposed temporary structure of 2,520 square feet that would be on the lot after the demolition. We would need submission for that, separate submissions for that, for the approvals and occupancy for that structure during the construction. In regards to the lot area and height regulations, after consolidation of all the lots, the square footage would be 25,843 square feet. There is a requirement for under the planning commission 127402 for that the not less than 50% of the total area shall be developed as planted areas. With the buildings and the net square footage, there would just be 42% planted area. So that would be a variance required. There is also a minimum area of lot shall be 3 acres. After the consolidation, the lot would be 0.59 acres, so that would require a variance. The minimum frontage of this structure would need to be 150 feet. The lot frontage proposed is only 128 feet. that would be a BZA variance. As far as yard regulations, setbacks are 30 feet. The front yard is 50.2 feet. So that falls within the required yard. The height of the building is proposed is 32 feet. What that would mean is side yards of 50 feet should be required on all sides of the building. And what is proposed is 22 feet. I believe it's I'm not sure if it's the east or west, but both side yards are only proposed to be 22 feet and 20.7 feet. And the rear yard is 93.6 feet. So those would also require variances. Again, a 50-foot setback is required. In regards to the parking, again, there, in the parking lot itself, the side yards proposed for the parking lot are only 5 feet, 7 feet. You know, so there's really no buffer, landscape buffer proposed. They would need a variance in regards to that. Parking, it would, what would, let's see, what would be required would be 125 spaces for the one for each 2 persons allowed as the maximum occupancy under the state law. Again, that would be 125 that would be required. They are only proposing 23 and one of them 80. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bartley. I meant to get together with you before, because I saw in your report and just one clarification about 1274, which is that all the variances you describe, such as if we were dealing with one of the other agenda items this evening, A or B, those variances would go to BZA. 1274 is unique in that this panel actually considers the variances here. So they would not go to BZA on this. We as a planning commission would decide together. Council would also have to approve those variances. It is unique in the code this way. So
Thank you for clarifying.
sure. Everything else that you said though is consistent with what I saw.
Okay.
So thank you.
And Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Rock.
To expound on that, the standard for the approval on 1274 is more stringent than any of the other applications we see, as we have to follow. On 1274 here, the applicant has to provide with clear and convincing evidence that the provisions of this chapter will be met and that the special use will not impair surrounding property values or uses, vehicular parking and pedestrian or traffic conditions, lighting, glare at night, noise pollution to others, or other applicable criteria in the planning and zoning code. So I just wanted to be clear, when we're looking at something that's 1274, the standard is much higher. But I'm seeing
Thank you.
like 8 different variances here. So that's something we had to take into account.
Okay.
Yes, no, that is correct. And then also, there's also the consideration regarding, certain streets within the neighborhood. And then when you're not on those streets, again, the items that you've described are going to be, considered at that level of scrutiny, or rather with that standard of proof. But as we're here on an informational basis, there will be additional time to develop some of those things for consideration. Ms. Mockby, did you have anything at this time?
Well, like Mr. Bartley said, they didn't have to provide engineering plans at this stage. So these engineering plans are very basic and there would need to be some significant changes to before an approval would be given. So the parking lot layout, stormwater detention would need to be taken a look at. Um, what else did I put? Your lot consolidation would have to be approved by the county, there would be some stuff there. So I listed a few of the codes to look at. I didn't look at every little thing yet because I felt like you guys were lacking a lot. So,
Yeah, certainly. Your review will kick in further once more
Yes.
detailed drawings, if and when more detailed drawings are presented. I did speak with the chief of police who had no significant input at this time on this process. I know the fire chief is here. Chief Perko, did you have anything you want to report out on with regard to this project at this time?
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant did submit a fire department site plan checklist that was reviewed by the Fire Prevention Bureau. Again, because it's preliminarily, there were a few incomplete items mainly related to fire protection systems like sprinkler system. Depending on, final plans, it's likely that that sprinkler system would be required. And then that would trigger some of the items in the checklist that we haven't completed yet, both the applicant and fire prevention. So things like related to the sprinklers with fire department connections, fire pumps, pressure testing and things like that. And then they would have to tie it into a fire alarm system. But on a primary approval with just the basic site plan, there was really no other concerns.
Yeah, very good. Does anybody have any questions for Chief Perko?
I do.
Mr. Rao?
Would this require a fire lane in the parking lot?
There is a fire lane that will be required, but again, at this point, we don't know really where that would land.
Yeah, and you would be able to get your equipment in and out with just the one apron here.
I'm not
Tight.
sure. Yeah, not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
There's no CAD drawings that have been provided to show that it actually would make it. And if it would be close enough with street access or not, so. Until we get some further drawings and get deeper into the process, we wouldn't be able to tell for sure.
All right. Thank you, Chief. If something else comes up, we'll let you know. All right. I had a question for Mr. Adler. I don't, forgive me if you brought this up, I may have forgotten. What is the projected size of the congregation that would be using this facility?
I mean, the occupancy or the projected size? I mean, it's two different things.
I suppose that's true. So if you could go through that.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think the occupancy, okay, I think it's gonna be around 100 downstairs and 70 upstairs, but that's like your once in every, year or something of the sort, not your average occupancy. Something I spoke to the building department about, just about the parking lot, is that we're not looking to expand anything we're doing currently in the building that is, bring any more outside people to bring in. Obviously, they grow naturally, but that being said, most of the spots right now, we only have, I think, 6 or 7 spots on over Sabbath. And no one parks overnight along the streets then. So the 24 will definitely help out, A, over the Sabbath, and B, even at night, we're not now somewhat, I guess, more congested than not, or during the day. There's probably 10, 15 cars that will be able to suffice for those 24 spots in the parking lot. So yeah, I think it's 100 on the main floor and 74 upstairs, but we don't think we're gonna be a magic pill and we're gonna grow. So that just in case there's someone's having something and they're bringing family in town, we'll be able to accommodate them.
As far as the congregation itself, where do they reside generally?
University Heights.
Okay.
Housing.
I mean, suffice it to state, on Shabbos, congregants would walk.
Correct,
Attendees to services that
right. If your
would,
car's there, you.
and at any other time, attending an event or prayer service, if one is driving, it may be because they're going somewhere from there or are coming from somewhere else as opposed to home. Would that
Correct.
be a
I
fair?
mean, it's a mixed bag. I think certain people live farther away. You live, heading all the way down University or Churchill down, one of the other streets, you may drive, but they're mixed between people who walk.
You said there's an average of 10 to 15 cars a day on a normal
I would
day.
assume that, yeah. That's enough.
Okay.
Split between the street and the parking lot, I mean, the driveway, 2 driveways.
All right.
You say driveway.
Yeah, he said driveway. Yes.
Driveways. I mean,
Driveways.
Both houses are, and then out of the 3 houses, one is rented and one is vacant and is occasionally used by someone. So there's 2 driveways.
And then, under your proposal, would anybody actually reside at the property in this new proposed structure?
No.
Mr. Rychek, did you have something?
But we don't have a presentation here of what the proposed building will be. Am I getting that wrong?
No, you're not wrong. What he brought that up, this was brought up early too, and Mr. Rock pointed that out as well. They're going to, based upon input they get this evening, they can go back and draw. We're not passing anything this evening, I don't think, because this is informational.
Yeah.
Right.
Just one more question. Will this be a 501c3?
Yes.
Didn't you just say that they need a variance of something like they're required to have 125 parking spaces? And they have only 23?
That's correct.
That's a non-starter for me. Even if what he says it's not gonna be that many, even cut it in half, it's still a non-starter. Gotta come up with parking. Like, and don't come up with the driveway thing in the neighborhood, that bothers me big time. Unless they'll give you easements. An easement for 2 cars in every driveway that would approve it. Down the street, that will run with the property and record it.
Yeah, but just to clarify, the current plan is showing 24 spaces on the property. And they're saying 10 to 15 is what are currently being required.
And I just want to mention that as much as I want to see off-street parking, I feel our code goes too far with the parking minimums. I'm all for parking minimums. I just think we're excessive. 120 is the minimum? That's ridiculous. I don't.
Yeah, it depends on the occupants. In this case, it would be, I think you had your applicant loaded 250 is what you said, 174 for some certain area, that's another area.
So I
So
feel I'm in the opposite.
What's required by ordinance is 1 space for every 2
Yeah,
occupants.
I would not want to see 120 spaces here. That's just, no.
Yeah, I would not want to see.
And that's where
Not
I'll
that
probably
large.
disagree with my colleague. I don't want to see that many parking spots. I would like to see as many cars off the road. But I also don't want to lose a house to accommodate those cars
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, I feel the need to put this out there that I'm not a fan of parking minimums at all. And over time, I have come into agreement with the idea that they should generally be dispensed with, that parking minimum should be, rather than set forth in the code and then having to vary from, that they should be part of a development plan depending on the actual use of the property. And one of the things that makes University Heights unique and wonderful in this in the greater Cleveland community is just how walkable it is. And as we try to promote a healthy lifestyle, promote walkability, promote multimodal, dedicating more and more land to parking is always troublesome. So, seeing a limited parking lot versus a large parking lot, seeing a sea of parking where perhaps that could be avoided, I would rather see a smaller lot, especially in a situation where we know that the consumers of whatever services are on the site are likely not driving, or few of them are driving, and that be taken into consideration. We have granted variances on number of spaces, especially in situations where the presumptive client, customer, congregant, however we want to caption it, is more likely to be walking than driving to the site on a given occasion. And knowing that the folks that would be attending services there live in the neighborhood, that their inclination, if there are a few parking spaces, even if they could drive, probably wouldn't drive. So I don't know why I was looking at you that whole time, Bill,
That's okay.
but.
I
but
agree.
yes, Yes. So, but I think just because you spoke last on the parking minimums and that,
Yeah.
if we were to follow the parking minimum here, this would be overparked. And would know how many homes would
There'd
we
be a
have to
lot
take
of-
down to do it.
There'd be a lot of open space, like you said, that
Right.
not
and-
used consistently.
And to no good end, right. So, before I open up to public comment, I want to make sure that everybody else up here and the applicant has said everything they'd like to say at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I think a number of people are here to comment publicly. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to be heard. So we didn't do a sign in, so basically, I've seen a couple of hands, one here in the front. I think Mr. Eckstein. Yes, Dr. Eckstein, excuse me. If you may go first, and if you could state your name, address for the record. Oh, okay. Yeah, you may approach. Yeah, all directors. Sure, good. Okay.
You have to be sworn in.
Oh, yes, yes.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just by way of ground rules, there is not a set time limit on public comment, but I would ask that you state your piece, make sure you cover everything you want to say, but you need not be repetitive. There are several people, it seems, that would like to speak, so let's be considerate to all.
Time is 4 minutes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening, honorable members of the Universal Heights Planning Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'd like to say before my remarks that some of my neighbors whom I spoke and who signed the petition did not receive any letter or notice regarding tonight's proceedings. I, however, did supply them with a copy. An interesting comment came from a resident of Elmdale Road. Let me paraphrase. You and your fellow residents have skin in the game regarding this. I said, yes, but so do you. Every morning and evening, more than 15 or 20 cars, a multitude of cars are driving to get here to our neighborhood to park not only on University, but also yours and adjacent streets. This has created ever increasing burden to our streets and increasing complaints. It will only get worse with the attempted commercialization and expansion that you heard tonight, the 25,000 square foot shul.
Mr. Epstein, can you speak into the mic? You can
Oh,
pull it
sorry.
out. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Eckstein, and along with my wife, Dr. Lori Eckstein, I stand here as a concerned resident and active member of our community for over 30 years. I also speak for those residents of University Parkway from Milton to Bradley who have signed a petition, which I just submitted, and for those who also live on the surrounding streets with whom I spoke directly to and have overwhelmingly voiced opposition to the proposal. However, out of fear from their own community, they chose not to sign. I rise today respectfully to voice my opposition as well as others to the proposed requested zoning changes of the 3 properties on your notice. This particular change, This particular change raises serious concerns. Concerns that impact not just the character of our neighborhood, but also the well-being of its residents, the environment of University Parkway, and the surrounding streets of University Heights. This request to propose a zoning change is not without precedent. A request to build a synagogue on Churchill Road was put forward a few years ago, and residents of Churchill Road as today said no. In that case, the city administration respected the residents' opposition and no synagogue was built. More importantly, the leadership of that congregation also respected the residents and did not threaten action, but found another location that was more attuned with commercial use on Green Road. There were other precedents. I started attending synagogue years ago in the basement of a small contingent of men that now has become Waxman Tourist Center on Green Road. The ritual bathhouse and the Kollel Yad Chom Mordechai and Zichron Cohen also chose, rather than to disrupt the neighborhood, to seek and assemble property along Green Road and build there. Originally, the residents of University Park were told that the house at 4316 was only going to be used for services of the immediate family of Dr. Malmark. Even the city administration was told this. But here we are today, several years later, and let's call it for what it is, a synagogue. One that for all these years has known that it is operating illegally. My greater concern is that of deception and misinformation by the leadership of the synagogue of University Park in the city. Was University Parkway and the surrounding streets approached about the synagogue's plans? Not till I heard it tonight. No, they did it in the dark of night, secretly buying houses. Why? Because they knew it was not wanted. I think I'm missing a page. Nope, there it is. The real truths and plans of expansion are more likely to remain hidden from this committee, City Council, and the City of University Heights. I love my neighbors, the beauty and the serenity of my neighborhood, as well as my neighbors who amplify these same ideals to me directly. I've had families tell me, as I collect the petition, they moved here specifically to University Heights to get away from the noise and congestion of the cities they came from. Plans to further expand the synagogue by demolishing 3 homes and building a parking lot do not reflect this. How do I know this? I had a direct conversation with Dr. Malmark as part of the leadership. This change would disrupt the established character of the neighborhood, replacing much needed single-family homes, structures, and uses that are out of scale and out of place for the surrounding neighborhood. Do we really want another commercial building on the street with its concomitant increase in traffic? We need our children further at risk. Does this synagogue leadership have the same respect for the neighbors or the law? The residents of University Heights, University Parkway, and the surrounding streets say, look elsewhere. To get assembling homes, parcels, and on more commercially viable access on Green Road. I say to Dr. Malmark and the synagogue leadership, have respect for your neighbors, as did other congregations before you. We are also your neighbors. We're also part of what's called Klal Yisrael. We are all one community of Jews. This message from your neighbors is clear. The building rezoning for the synagogue is not wanted. Please respect our wishes. Members of the Planning Commission, I urge you to prioritize the voices and needs of the current residents and to not deny this rezoning request. In regards to skin in the game, I leave you with one last thought, which I've heard throughout my career as a physician from individuals and families when a difficult choice had to be made. Doctor, what would you do? My answers were always difficult, but honest. I ask you, members of the commission, would you want a commercial 25,000 square foot building and parking lot next to your house? Thank you for your time and intentions.
Thank you. This gentleman in the front in the blue, you may go next.
My name is Jeff Kaplan.
Yes, I'm
One of the
sorry.
properties
Mr.
is,
Kaplan, can I
okay, so
swear you in?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
absolutely, I do.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Kaplan. I'm here with my wife Meryl. One of the properties being discussed is 2413 Elmdale. I live at 2417 Elmdale. We've lived there for 29 years. We've seen a change in what is considered to be a residential area. We don't want to live next to a parking lot. And we don't want another large building on University Parkway. We already have one monstrosity. And Mayor, you said that the Alexander Scholl is being worked on. We go down there every day. We haven't seen workers there in weeks. And we don't want another situation like that. We love University Heights. We love the family environment. One of the problems that we're currently experiencing is parking on Elmdale. We have, as well as several other neighbors, have been in touch with the police because we've had so much overnight parking, mostly from John Carroll students, but from others as well. And finally, the police have started ticketing. And we could not have company over because there was nowhere for them to park. We don't want to see this happening again and again. And to have a 24 space parking lot next to our house, to have to deal with the construction, to have to deal with the dirt and dust that will come from that is just unreasonable. Remember, University Heights is a residential location. We already have 3 congregations on University Parkway. One that was recently approved down towards Green, the Alexander Scholl, which at some point may be completed, and the small house at I believe it's 4316. We have men who walk down our driveway, across our yard, and then go through the shrubs there to get to the back of that facility. And it's been in operation for several years, and we can hear them at night and hear them in the morning. It's okay. That's fine. That's a small residential show. But to build something as being proposed with a 24 space parking lot next to our house, no. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you may. The woman raising her hand now. Behind Merrill.
Everyone, thank you for listening to all of us. We really appreciate it.
Very good. Mr. Bryan's going to give you an affirmation or swear you in.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
Okay. We've been living in our
Oh,
house.
could you state your name first for the
Oh,
record?
yes, I'm sorry. Ruth Solowich.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've been living in our house on Claver Road at 2414 Claver since 1978. So I think we're very good members of the University Heights community. We moved in actually as a young couple with a baby, and our street were mostly older people, and they were so thrilled when we moved in because they said we're bringing, youth to the street and to the community. When we moved in, it was very, very, very quiet. Our street, Claver, was very quiet. Our house is one house away from University Parkway, and it's right at the end of Claver, which is opposite. Our backyard is opposite 2413 Claver. So it was very open when we moved in, and it was, our property is 40 feet front and 128 feet depth. So we have a very small and narrow lawn, but everything was open. Nobody had fences when we moved in, and it was very, very quiet. Actually, we were the pioneers. My husband and I were the pioneers of the Orthodox Jewish community. After we moved in, other Orthodox couples and families started to move in after us, but we were very daring. We moved in as the first Orthodox family. It was a very quiet street, and it was very open. And because we have I call it my postage stamp lawn in the backyard, but because it was so open, so we see their lawn, 2413 Elmdale lawn, like meets our lawn, and there's no fence and it's open, and the Milstein's lawn is open, and so it seems very open. Everything was wonderful. We were very happy, actually. We were very happy when the shul opened up in the house. I think it's 4316, 4316 University Parkway. We were actually very happy that there was going to be a synagogue there. Although I have to tell the truth, and this is, I didn't swear, but I said I'm going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I used to sit in the front yard. I used to sit in the backyard. I was a teacher for many, many years, and I used to do my projects all summer long in the backyard. As soon as they opened up the shul in the house, I stopped sitting in the backyard because I felt uncomfortable. There's patio doors looking out onto our backyard, and I felt uncomfortable sitting in my backyard while they're davening, while they're praying, you know, in the house. But we were very happy to have them. We like the sounds of the singing that we hear, no problem. But I have a real problem. We have a real problem with putting a parking lot facing my backyard. The value of my house, which nobody spoke about, but the value of my house is going to plummet probably over $100,000 because actually no one, not even an Orthodox family, is going to want to move into a house that is literally abutted by a parking lot. And for me, for us, we get the sun for 2 hours in the morning because the front of our house faces east and the back of our house faces west. So for about 2 hours in the early morning, I'll have some sunlight in the house, but most of our sunlight and light comes into our house to the back, from the back of our house, which is where they want to put a parking lot. So number one, and an edifice and a you know, a huge building. So it's going to, first of all, I'm going to have only darkness. My house is going to be so dark because the light's going to be blocked by a building. And I'm really, really, really worried about all these cars that are going to be facing, they're going to be coming in, and I'm going to see headlights all night long because they're there in the morning and they're there in the evening and they're certainly there at night and they learn at night, and that's beautiful, that's wonderful. But to say that people walk there, no, they drive there. During the week, the only time they'll walk there is on the Sabbath. But otherwise, the cars are going to be coming and I'm going to see headlights literally. Would anybody here like to see headlights after headlights after headlights shining into their windows? I'll have to close every, shade, and it would be unacceptable. Actually, about 13 years ago, we had to build a new garage. They made us move our garage up by 3 feet. They were very, very strict then, and we had to move up our garage by 3 feet. So, okay, we were considering actually building a attached garage. We had the architect come and he had it okayed, zoning, everything fine. And then I said, no, you know what? Because it was going to block the windows of my den and block the windows of my kitchen. And I said, I don't want a dark, house. And we decided to build a nice, very nice garage that is not attached. A building like that and a parking lot like that, where I know I will see all the headlights coming in, the headlights, because I'm behind I'll be facing the parking lot. All the lights from all the cars are going to be coming in. And not only that, I'm going to be hearing slamming of car doors. I jump in my house when I hear a car door slam a few houses away, one car slam, door slam a few houses away on the street. So I'm for sure not going to enjoy hearing car door slamming nonstop all day long, and I will have no privacy left at all in my own house. And like I said, I don't sit in the back. I have not sat in the backyard once, except for in our sukkah. I have not sat in the backyard once because of the shul there, and we're happy to have the shul there. A little bit about Alexander Shul, just you can't compare it because Alexander Shul is being built on one lot. I knew that house that was there before the shul was being built. It's one lot, and they're not building a parking lot. It's just going to be their driveway. Elmdale, and besides that, Milton is a wider street than Claver, and then Elmdale, and then Bromley, which are the three streets after Milton. And Milton is a very, very, very long street. So there's, you can park as far down as you want. We already have a preview of the problem that already exists, and this will only exacerbate it like 100-fold. Our own street, Claver, like I said, it was so quiet when we moved in. And the only cars we saw leaving or going down the street were the people pulling slowly, slowly out of their driveways. Our street has become very, 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 very busy. It's so busy that sometimes cars are double parked on our street. And I have to literally, I can't get through from Washington. I can't get through, so I'll turn myself around and go all the way down Elmdale just so I can go to my house, which is on the corner of, University Parkway and Claver. The city put up no parking signs on University Parkway, but no one honors them. People are parked, the signs are right there and people are parked anyways. The city cannot regulate the traffic and parking already, and this plan will grossly overwhelm the existing problem. I just want to speak about something else that has to do actually with the children. First of all, Elmdale is a very short block and a narrow street. Bromley is one short block and a narrow street, and the end of these blocks are is John Carroll University. I am literally petrified for the children, the buses, and I have to say that I know that because quite often I'm driving my car when the buses arrive. There are little tiny tots, 2-year-olds. I see 2-year-olds crossing the street. And they will be crossing the streets with a parking lot and this edifice, this building, this huge building. And it's going to be so dangerous for the children, for the kids getting onto the buses, getting off the buses. And I don't even understand how all these 24 spaces of cars, all these cars are going to be able to even get into the parking lot with the buses and the children. And you can't even see the tiny children. So I feel that this is a huge, huge, huge danger. Besides the busing, I see and I watch all the little children crossing the streets, and 9 months a year, about 9 months out of the year, they're all crossing the streets to go to the schoolyard and to Garrity Schoolyard. And it's just going to be bedlam. I mean, it's just going to be bedlam for the children. I literally, the first thing I said was, oh my gosh, the children, it's going to be so unsafe for the children. How can they, how can we have this? Again, I'm going to say I'm very happy to have the house as a shul. And like I said, I haven't sat in the backyard, but that doesn't matter. I'm happy to have it as a house. Do I want a parking lot facing my house where I am going to see all the headlights nonstop? And like I said, my house will drop in value by 100,000 at least, because even Orthodox people, even Jewish Orthodox people will not want to buy the house because they can buy a house on any of the other streets. Why would they want to have a parking lot facing their house with cars facing their house? And I have to tell you that I have seen people speed down my street, down Claver. Probably a few people have sped down there at 50 miles an hour, and I'm not exaggerating. So it's very, very different than it was. And I'm happy with it. We have lived on our street a long time. We love University Heights. We love University Heights. We've never even thought to move anywhere else, but this would be literally an impossibility to put a building like this around all these houses, and everybody's having the same problem with it. But our house would literally be facing all the cars coming in at us and the door slamming and people getting out, and they're rushing. Everybody's rushing. I don't know where everybody's rushing to, but suddenly everyone is zooming and rushing, and this would cause extreme problems. So I hope that you will understand that when we are the people that live around this, and most of us have lived there a long time, and we don't want to have to move. We just want it to be a peaceful, quiet neighborhood and continue to have the shul in the house there. And they should enjoy it, and we should enjoy living around it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Solovich. See a couple of hands. Over here on the right. Yes, yes. We'll get to everyone.
Avraham Estel.
Is, Mr. Bryan?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a really quick statement, which is that I'm a member of the show. I've been involved from day one, and heavily involved in the development of this plan. But really, all I really wanted my statement to be about is that obviously communities and neighborhoods are complex and diverse, with people from all different timelines and backgrounds, and even same backgrounds can have different viewpoints as to what they want. And the main point that I want to bring out is that I have the full respect of anybody who has a varying opinion of what I may have or other members of the show may have. And for all I know, there may be some members of the show that may not share the exact same viewpoints as other members of the show as well. Also, obviously, we have tremendously good feedback in the show as well as other local people as well. But my main point is for everybody that's here, that's spoken, tremendous respect. And I value your opinions, and it doesn't say anything. I'm appreciative of it. I respect them. And I think it's something which is, yeah. Yeah, I live right around the corner, yes. I'm Milton, yes.
Yes, if we
No,
could,
and I have two brother-in-laws that live on University Parkway as well also.
yeah, this,
I live right around the corner.
okay, public comment isn't supposed to
Yeah,
be a
I'm
back
saying
and
is, that I
forth.
said, it's respect.
Thank you.
We're allowed to have differences of opinions. That's my main point is I respect everybody's opinions, and I respect where they come from, and I can understand their side of the coin. I 100%. I think that it's important to make that statement and have that be said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meistel. All right, I see a hand. I think it's Ms. Byer. Yes, you may have your turn. Please come on up. And
Do you-
yes,
May
Mr.
I
Bryan.
affirm?
Yes, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury?
May I affirm?
Yes.
I will. Thank you. Tina Kanabayer, University Parkway. While I fully acknowledge the right of any and all individuals to host gatherings in their homes, and I've already emailed this commission reasons why my family does not support this agenda item. An additional incident that happened on our street almost 2 years ago further illustrates why this agenda item would not be a good fit for our block. In June of 2023, on a Saturday night, right after tenants had moved out of the corner house at 4310 University Parkway on the corner, there was a bar mitzvah party there that went past 11 p.m. The music was so loud that I could feel the vibration of the bass in my chair while sitting in my house. We thought there was a car parked on the street with its music turned all the way up. Shortly before 11 p.m., I walked across the street and asked the young people assembled in that house's front yard to go inside and turn the music down. One of them did, but as I was walking back to my house, another of them started calling out after me. I don't hear anything. I stopped, I turned around and I said, what? He repeated, I don't hear anything. I said, of course you don't. They turned it down. I wasn't going to call the police until that boy spoke to me like that, but I went home and I called the UHPD non-emergency number. And an officer came and instructed the young people gathered outside to go inside the house. If a shul is allowed to be built on these 3 lots, it would be expected that there would be parties and other special events, such as what I just described. Almost 7 years of traffic, parking, and other issues have already been well documented. So I would just like to again ask this commission to deny their application. Thank you all for your service to the city.
Thank you, Ms. Byer. I see a hand back here. Yes. And Mr. Bryan, if you could provide an affirmation.
Do you swear to tell the truth,
Affirmation.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sandra Schultz. I live at 4315 University Parkway. My husband and I bought our house about 20 years ago. It was a total disaster. There was holes in the walls. It had no air conditioning. The furnace didn't work. Nothing worked. But it had a first floor bedroom and it had a utility room on the first floor. And it's a quiet neighborhood. It's down by the school. It's a very pretty neighborhood. My yard was not pretty. But I said we could stay in this house until they take me off in the ambulance to the cemetery or whatever. So, and we worked very hard to make it livable until we finally got it to where we could, we were very happy with the yard. A couple years ago, we actually landscaped it, so we had this pretty front yard. I know a few years ago, my neighbor said to me, "Oh, how do you like living across from the shul?" I knew nothing about the shul, but there was somebody putting a bima in the front door. So I thought, well, it's my fault. Apparently, I don't pay attention well enough. But if somebody wants to daven in their house, that's fine with me. They could do whatever they want as long as they don't bother me. However, I also have a very narrow driveway and it's only one car driveway. And there are cars parked on the street every morning and every evening that I can hardly see. I cannot see when somebody's coming through Bromley. My landscaper has to guide me out of my driveway because I cannot see on either side. I already know I can't come to council and say, could I make my driveway wider? Because I came a couple years ago when my neighbor wanted to do his driveway wider. And they said, no, they had to get permission from me to use 2 feet of my property. And I was being unreasonable because I didn't want them to be any closer to my yard because I would have cars looking in my kitchen window, which faces his driveway. So I gave in and I said, okay. And now they do have a wider driveway and I do not have cars always having their lights in, but every day I have ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum from the basketball that looks right into my kitchen window. So I'm really not in the mood to be reasonable anymore. I don't want to live across from a parking lot. I was hoping that I was going to be able to stay in this house. My husband is 91. I am older. We can't start all over doing a new house. I don't think it's unreasonable. If they want to daven in the house, that's fine. But I don't think it's unreasonable of me that I don't want to live across from a synagogue, a building. I thought this was a residential area. It was quiet. It was nice. I had school children making noise. That's fine. I now have people, the city should be making a fortune because if they put a police car in my driveway and watch them speed down the street all the time, so they're not late for mincha. So anyhow, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schultz. Who else would like to speak? I see a hand in the white shirt. Please come up.
Thank you. My name is Scott Mendenhall.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Brian.
Mendenhall, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury?
I do. And I live at 4292 University Parkway. I've been there 33 years. And it's a great neighborhood. Even the Maltzmachers used to be my neighbor and we're great neighbors. And then he moved down the street, a nice bigger house. And I've actually davened in the shul a couple times. And it's beautiful davening. It's a great congregation. You could hear a pin drop when it's so quiet and respectful there. But I wish it would just stay as a house. I don't think it belongs in a commercial building there. I just think it would just look really out of place and aesthetically it would just doesn't belong there. Like this man said, would you like to have a driveway? I mean, a parking lot right next to you?
I would like to offer a solution, if I could be so bold. I walk 10 minutes to Heights Jewish Center every Shabbos. It's north of where I live. It's about 10-minute walk from their shul. And it's a dwindling congregation. We have a hard time making minyan during the week sometimes. We'd love to have you come and overtake it. We'd love for you to outnumber us and take over socially, politically. And it's a big building. You can knock it down and build your dream shul there. And there's a huge parking lot. Kol hakavod, I wish we could do that. It would be 10 extra minutes for someone who lives at the opposite end to get there. Think about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mendenhall. Right here in the black, please come up to the podium. And you'll need Mr. Bryan to give
Swear
you
to
an
tell the truth,
affirmation.
the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury.
My name is Ala Goldman and I live 4333 University Parkway. It's basically Clever, just hit my house. So every morning I'm going from my home to some exercises, 5 minutes before 7, and I'm back at 8:30. So every day starting this attraction with some adrenaline, how I pull my car out from my driveway because it occupied these cars. And of course, commercial building with the parking lot will not help. It will not solve that issue. Absolutely not. They were talking about 24 cars, your 124 or something was very confusing. And it's absolutely not possible. Few times cars were partially blocked my driveway. I left the note on the car, please do not park here anymore. Next time I will call police. Okay, it was working for a few days only. Few times I sent the messages to Mr. Molzmacher about the garbage. Before, every day I started with walking on my beautiful neighbor. Now, every morning, I started with cleaning my front yard. Absolutely not possible. I feel like I live, and it will be even worse with new commercial building, with new shul. I feel already like I'm in Broadway show on the first row. It's not normal for residential area and absolutely not acceptable. It doesn't mean we need the new shuls, but that place is absolutely wrong. And as we were told at the very beginning, some years ago, 6 years ago, that it will be only for Mr. Molzmacher family, and it didn't work this way. So please stop it. Also, I really appreciated that sign, don't park, but it was lesson for a few weeks only. And it's terrible. Please return this sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Gentleman with the hand up, please come up.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury.
I so affirm.
Thank you.
My name's Adam Kovich. I live right in the middle of Elmdale Road, about 5 or 6 houses down from the proposed shul. Coming into this meeting, I didn't really have any preconceived thoughts one way or the other. It wasn't necessarily pro or against. I can see pros and cons. We've heard a lot of cons today. Most of the cons, it seems to me, have fallen into the category of people who live in the immediate vicinity of the shul and whose lives are already miserable from the various issues with there. And I spoke to a few people, and I understand where their concerns are coming from. And I think it's entirely appropriate for any institution that's moving into a neighborhood to be understanding and make sure that before they move in, they make sure to allay all the concerns of the neighbors. What I'd like to urge the Schulz committee to do is to sit down and itemize each of these concerns and see if they actually can be mitigated or not. And actually work with the neighbors one-on-one to see if they could figure out ways to mitigate these concerns. Certainly, as I've been listening to people's concerns over the last 45 minutes or so, I've been taking notes. I think that it's very interesting. I intend on bringing them back to my wife, and we'll certainly discuss them. I'm sure the representatives of the shoal that are here are sufficiently respectful of the intellect and standing of their immediate neighbors, that they've also been taking notes and understand what the concerns are. And I would also urge the council to give the Shoals Committee a chance to respond after they've had a chance to actually sit there and digest them and create some sort of cogent response.
Very good. I'm sorry, I missed your name and your address. Could you
Oh,
restate?
I'm sorry. My name is Adam Kovich. Last name is Covitch.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak this evening? You may come back up, Ms. Solowich.
My driveway is very, very narrow. So my husband and I, we park our cars in the driveway, and my car is literally like about a foot, not even a foot away from my side door. So people cut through my yard to go to the shul, and I had no problem with that. I really didn't. But finally, my car was scratched, and so I put up a little sign on the side of my house, and I said, if you walk through my driveway in my backyard, please do not touch my cars, our cars. That's all I did. I never said, don't come through my backyard. We're very accommodating. I never said, don't cut through. I'm fine with that, but I actually had to put up a sign and the sign disappeared. But what I'm saying is, this is just very difficult if it becomes what they want it to become, because instead of just some people cutting through my yard, it'll be everyone cutting through my yard and by my house and scratching up my car. Again, I'm thinking about the headlights facing my house, and that is very upsetting to me. Thank you so much for.
Thank you. Dr. Eckstein.
Community, we're doing it for the first time. What is the next step? What does the planning commission, where does it go to city council? So we all have an understanding how this can proceed. I don't want to be in darkness anymore.
Certainly.
Sorry.
Certainly, I'll try to answer that. We have not yet made any kind of disposition with regard to this application, although it is clear from the materials submitted that there isn't sufficient material to consider in order to do an approval. So even, I've obviously, I don't know what the commissioners intend here, but even if the commission were of mind ultimately to approve, we do not have what we need to approve. I don't know that we would deny either. My guess, and I'm only speaking as one of three people who are here tonight. My guess is that it would probably be tabled subject to additional supplementation, if any, from the applicant. This particular situation is unique in that, as you're all aware, this Zikron Asher Zelig is operating and has been for some time at 4316 University Parkway. We're aware of this. They operate there without a license. And I don't think there's any dispute about that. So part of my urging, and I'll be candid about this, part of my urging the applicant to make a formal application was so that we could legitimize operations as one possible outcome here. And what cannot continue is the status quo, where we have a residential shul operating without a license. there has to be something that happens to bring harmony to what's going on in the neighborhood, to the laws of the city. Which means, finding some kind of proposal that is approvable, or ultimately winding up operations at this site because no license has been issued. Those are two, I don't know if those are the only two possibilities, but those are the two that come immediately to mind. What some of the public comment and some of the emailed comment, has pointed out that this has been allowed to continue longer than some residents would like, and feels as if the city has not taken sufficient action. The city has taken different approaches over time on these. Sometimes these lead to litigation. Sometimes these lead to a lot of hard feelings in the community. Inevitably, whenever there's a lawsuit, I get named in it. That's my favorite part. Being somewhat facetious, not somewhat. And what I do want to see is something that brings harmony to the neighborhood. There are different uses that happen in a neighborhood. There are different interests that we try to balance. We've heard from a lot of folks this evening. I think the applicant has heard from a lot of folks this evening, and I hope the applicant takes that to heart. And where they go from here on this, I do not know. I cannot and do not speak for the
So,
applicant.
What you're suggesting, so what might happen tonight is that it'd be tabled for more additional information, and it would come back to this planning commission again, or where would it go? So you're suggesting two different avenues here. First of all, you're suggesting that we have let's call it what it is, a synagogue operating all these years legally. Is that going to need to be turned commercial or a special use? And I don't know the terminology that I'm using, special use permit, because we don't want to be a commercial site, because that leads to a slippery slope. So the question I go back to, just focus on the one problem of tonight, is the commercialization of 3 houses. So for this council tonight, the tables it, what is the next step for this particular problem of putting a 25,000 square foot up to 125 required by law parking spaces that don't require variance? What will be the next step after tonight? I'm not angry.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just, I'm not a politician or a lawyer. I don't know what the next step is. And everyone here who's made the time and effort to come needs to know and be informed of the next step.
Though you are not a politician or a lawyer, I think you've identified with some clarity, the issue that's before us. What is the next step?
What is the next?
And part of the issue is, and I think you've seen the city take different approaches over time, where sometimes a hard line is taken. Sometimes, but when I say that, it usually is following a much more measured approach, where we attempt to work with someone who is operating what appears to be a house of worship without a special use permit. 1274 of the University Heights Codified Ordinances contemplates that in order to operate a house of worship in a U1, a special use permit is required. There, in a commercial district, it is not.
So the next step for
Mhm.
the house would be to not need to have a commercialization, a variance, but simply applying for a special use permit. But I go back, I'm asking you to redirect for this night, this particular problem.
Mhm.
What is the next step that the shul has to bring to? Will it come back to this planning committee first?
Well, I will tell you that a special use permit only is recommended by this committee. It doesn't get recommended by any other committee. It doesn't get recommended directly by council or approved directly by council. It doesn't happen in any other body. It happens here under local ordinance. It's the planning commission that either recommends approval or recommends rejection of a special use permit.
That answers that one question. That's the question.
Okay.
Again, so
Now, what would happen from here is I don't expect that there will be an approval or a denial this evening based upon the material that's in front of us. And again, I'm only speaking for myself. I can't speak for the whole body. Whole body hasn't voted.
we can expect to come back here and hear the next step of what
Mhm.
the shul wants to propose
Mhm.
for 25,000 square foot. Sure.
Well, it could be that they will come back with a different proposal. I mean,
But if it-
again, I don't speak for the applicant.
They'll come back.
Whatever happens next, if there's a hearing, it happens at this committee.
And will the city notify everybody in the area with notification of when that meeting and when that will occur? As I said,
Mhm.
plenty of the residents did not even know this was happening tonight.
Well, there is. Mhm.
So I'm just
Well-
trying to ensure openness and communication.
Certainly, and I want to make sure we're doing that too. I know that there are provisions in our ordinance with regard to notice. I want to believe they were followed. Mrs. Thomas would have done that. She faithfully does that. It may be that it's only so far a radius, which may be why, though you may be interested, that may be why your house didn't receive a notice. Maybe it's a problem with the mail. Otherwise, were they mailed or dropped off, Mrs. Thomas? They were mailed. Okay. So
So,
obviously some people got them.
so can I proposal that the
Mhm.
wider radius be assured the community is that's at risk?
Yeah, I mean, there may be an issue with just arbitrarily picking a radius different from what is set forth in the ordinance, but there is never any problem with anyone who would like to be put on a list to be provided a notice.
How do they?
We've done that before.
How do they go about being put on? How do we go again?
You can email the clerk.
Yes.
Say, I'm interested in any.
Can I submit to the court a list of all the residences? Can I submit a list of all the residences involved to the court? Or can I only personally do it for myself? I'm in a position, I'm being meticulous, I'm gonna be detailed.
Sure, it would be best for people to, on their own behalf, request a notice. There are media outlets, there are concerned citizens who who place themselves on a list to be provided notices of all kinds of meetings. Isn't that so, Mrs. Thomas? So you can ask to be placed on a list regarding this particular item or any special use permit or any planning commission meeting or whatever meetings you like. So
And I can collect and submit to the clerk on behalf of these people.
it would be better if they contact the clerk on their own behalf. I appreciate your willingness to help in that regard. Mrs. Thomas has an
Mr. Bryan.
email.
Can I not?
Are there emails on your petition? I haven't looked at your petition yet.
No, so I'm asking, we're asking for a question here. I'm asking I'm asking
Okay.
the city council.
Please.
Can I, on behalf of those in the immediate vicinity, submit their names to be assured that they're notified? Is there anything that is illegal or obscure that I cannot do or can't?
Well, they need to be making the request and we need some sort of method to be assured that they made that request. So if you submitted, an affidavit from people that you're authorized to submit that request on their behalf, I suppose we would honor that.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I also think it would be right that there's nothing wrong with you going to people and saying you should, email the city if you want to be on a list, which I think is what you were asking as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted a little clarity and make sure.
Mhm. Although, Mr. Bryan, I think your idea may have merit, that would these individuals execute affidavits or would Dr. Eckstein execute an
No, I think
affidavit?
the individuals would have.
Okay, well, that seems like
Right.
more trouble than just drafting off your own email.
Just to tell people, here's the email address, Ms. Thomas, you need to send it to, this is what I'm saying,
Only one problem is some of the Orthodox community don't really do the internet well.
Well,
File comment.
sure. I mean, it doesn't have to be by email. I mean, Mrs. Thomas, do you take phone calls, letters, what have you? Postcards? Okay.
So just postcard came to us from the resident, that would work.
Yeah, and I have business cards if you want to take them.
hand delivery.
Oh, good idea. Thank you.
You.
That's,
No, this is why we're here. Thank
Even
you.
a phone call will work. If you call me, I'll answer.
Yeah.
You can come to my office.
Yes, yes. Meryl, would you? Yes, yes. And you haven't spoken yet, so we'll need to do an
Thank you.
affirmation here.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to the members of the commission. As a next door neighbor of the proposed shul and parking lot, again, I was not aware that that was the case. So obviously our interest and concerns are greater knowing that. As you can tell, I am not a member of the Orthodox community. I am Jewish. And I've been in University Heights for 29 years, actually 35 because I lived on Witten before I moved to Elmdale. I love University Heights. I've seen so many changes in the almost 30 years that I've been a resident. I first moved by myself, married my husband Jeff, and we lived there together. I came to University Heights because of the neighborhood, the style of the homes, the trees, and the diversity. And I think, and I love the fact that I am in an Orthodox neighborhood. It makes me feel comfortable and I'm comforted by that. My neighbors have been terrific. I recently lost my father and the comfort and support I received was just amazing. And I so appreciate that and I'm thankful for that. And I'm concerned also, along with what my husband said, that we already have the Alexander Shoal. And I have people come by and are just really surprised that that is the case. Again, we were not involved in the whole situation there, but it's just surprising to me that knowing the history of of the home and, how they went about going, having services there, also probably not licensed, they are then now being given this huge building, which changes the whole feeling of the neighborhood. And it's just, I hear from others and I want University Heights to be known as a diverse community. We struggle with that. We have JSU, we have, students at John Carroll and I'm concerned that, we're going to be looked at as a place that other groups can come in and start building commercial buildings, houses of worship, maybe a yoga studio, who knows? I want to live in a neighborhood that is family friendly. I don't want people traipsing through my garden that I work on very hard and I appreciate and I love. Again, my husband and I, we just redid our kitchen. We want to stay here. I don't want to move, but if this goes forward, I don't know how I can not, just knowing that that parking lot's going to be right next door. And just, it really, it's going to keep me up at night. And, being a taxpayer, being a supporter of University Heights and loving where I live. And, again, I just, appreciate the opportunity that you're giving us to express our concerns. And I hope that, appropriate action moves forward and that we can all be involved in the process because what happens here obviously impacts us as residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. Is there anyone else who would care to speak at this time? Okay. Well, I want to thank all the members of the public who took the time to come forward and speak. I know it can be intimidating sometimes to speak publicly about matters that you feel deeply about. And I respect that. This is I heard several of you say that you love University Heights and how long you've lived here. And, I first moved here myself in 1998 and that doesn't seem so long ago and it's not 1978, but you know, I was, you know, also part of a young couple with ideas of what my forever home might look like. And one of the things I've loved about University Heights, and I think you do too, is its diversity and how it transforms. You know, we don't want to see our city stagnate. We don't want to see everything remain completely the same all the time. Part of new people coming in is we each make this our community and we each change it in our own small ways. Well, we continue to invest in the community through our own homes and the improvements we make and then relationships we have and the neighbors that come and go. One of the things I've always found found remarkable once I found out about it, about University Heights, is how every 10 years, about 50% of the population turns over. And what's amazing to me about that is there are those of us who choose to make this our forever home. And then there's some who, you know, live here for 5 years or so and, you know, move on to the next place, you know, whether it's because of career or family, just wanting a different house, maybe a larger yard. And then there's some of us, myself included, who thought this would be a good place to buy a first home and do exactly that. And then in the end chose to make my life here for real. To the point where I even, you know, went out and became the mayor, which I never thought I'd do until I actually did it. My point in all that is that communities like ours are dynamic and there will be changes from time to time. But at the same time, we have to strive for balance. And, you know, I think we've heard a lot this evening about the things that need to be considered in order to do those things. I also spoke earlier, and ma'am, there is a water cooler over here if you could use a little water. One of the things that I brought up earlier, and I think, you know, I'll bring up again, is that, you know, part of that harmonization is compliance with our local ordinances. So something will need to be worked out with regard to the applicant and how they operate so that they are brought into harmony with those ordinances. The operations either need to be legitimized and permitted, or some sort of adjustment has to be made, which leads to that, or perhaps they need to consider a different location for where they're doing that. There are lots of different variables here. You know, I've heard about how there are other schools, you know, there are, but you know, not being a theologian, I do understand that not every shul is right for everybody, and that some folks will be more at home at one place of worship than they would be at another one. So, you know, part of what makes a community are all the assets within it. You know, it's the beautiful homes we have, it's the neighbors we have, it's the relationships we have, and it's the way we spend our time and the way we build community. Some of that do that through religion, some of that do that without it, and some of that do that in many other ways besides either one of those. You know, I appreciate everyone who came here this evening. I appreciate the applicant for coming forward and for working with the city on a possibility that, you know, might work or might not. And I appreciate the feedback that was given here this evening that I think the applicant will look at seriously and consider alternatives. If there's nothing else, my inclination is to table this matter at this time, subject to the applicant reviewing what they've submitted and considering refinements, alternatives, what have you, and that they come back at a future meeting, not necessarily the next meeting, but expeditiously. You know, some sort of resolution should be had where we either continue in a process, perhaps in a different direction, or something else is done where the application is moot. So I make that motion to table. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rychek.
comment?
Yes, I'll take a comment on the motion.
Okay, I think we've heard some great testimony tonight. I think for the applicant's sake, since they were only here for preliminary purposes, I think it's fair that we're not either approving or rejecting this application tonight, because your sole intent was to get feedback. I think you got plenty of feedback. As you go back to the drawing board, do look at 127401 subsection D. That's the standard that we have to use to review these projects. So you have to provide with clear and convincing evidence that certain criteria have to be met. So that would be my recommendation to you, because that's the code we have to use to make a sound judgment on this. That of course includes, vehicular parking, glare, noise, that sort of thing. You have to be able to provide that with clear and convincing evidence. So you're within your right to resubmit. You may or may not put more investment into these drawings, so we understand it better. But to make that final decision on our end, we have to have that evidence. So take this opportunity, if you so choose, to make that investment. But please review that section of the code.
And I just like, there are a couple other things that you didn't like, lot coverage and screening from neighborhood
Oh, yeah, I mean,
properties and things like that. So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw there was a drawing that was left up on my desk that shows a depiction of some screening by landscaping, but obviously something more significant, if you continue to go in that direction, would be appropriate or more descriptive, I guess I should say.
And since you are looking for feedback, again, I know you've heard it. I told you where I stood on that. The parking lot's just a no-go for me. So if you're going to go forward with this investment in engineering and architectural drawings, to gain my support, for me, 3 houses going away, it's not gonna work for me. I think that's something you have to consider, so.
Yeah, and one other thing, and I'll call on Ed. As long as we're calling out code sections, as Mr. Rock had, in 1274.02E, there is a section regarding streets, and though we have granted variances before on that, and there is a provision here that says a special use permit, this is E2, a special use permit may be issued by the planning commission for land fronting on other streets. And this would be applicable to your application because it's not Cedar Road, Warrensville, South Taylor, Fairmount, North Park, or Green Road. Where the applicant demonstrates by clear and convincing evidence that the use will benefit and not impair surrounding property values or uses, vehicular parking and pedestrian congestion or traffic conditions, noise pollution, and will not be otherwise contrary to the public health, safety, or welfare, subject to the approval of the majority of council. So that's a lot to take in. You've heard some testimony this evening contra those very same points. So at some point, you may need to address that. Do you have anything for us before we take a vote on the motion table, Mr.?
I just want point of clarification. The building's not 25,000 square feet. It's 1,500
Okay,
total, just we will go back to the drawing board and figure out what makes sense.
okay. I'm happy to discuss with you offline, anything you'd care to talk about. The city wants to work with you.
Perfect.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Rychek, yes.
I think the public comment was very significant to me tonight. I learned a lot, and I'm glad you folks spoke up.
Yeah, and I want to make sure everybody else understands, I'm everybody's mayor, so it's not just that Mr. Adler can call me, any of you can call me too. Or email. Thank you. Sir, I know I will hear, yes. Okay. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Mrs. Thomas, you call the roll.
Mayor Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rytrick,
Yes.
Mr. Rock.
Yes.
Okay, the item is tabled. We have one more item. Item D, ordinance 2025-07, establishing section 1280.14 of the zoning code prohibiting the manufacture, distributing, storage, and sale of fireworks. This is referred by city council. Mr. Bryan, would you care to take this item with respect to the referral and what you, as a matter of record, you'd like us to consider?
Sure. This is a zoning ordinance which requires planning commission to have the opportunity to comment and review this ordinance before it's adopted or not adopted by council. And it is short and succinct, and it just basically prohibits any facility that would manufacture, distribute, store, sell, or sell by wholesale or fireworks. And I think the thought behind it was because of the small and compacted nature of the city that, you know, for safety reasons, we're not a suitable place for these types of activities to occur.
Okay. All right. Well, I would agree, you know, wholeheartedly that we don't want to be manufacturing fireworks in the city of University Heights, that we don't want a warehouse full of fireworks in the city of University Heights, that it's not conducive for that here. This isn't Glen Willow. This is University Heights. Not picking on Glen Willow, but if you know the history of Glen Willow, they were a company town for TNT. So it's not outrageous to say. Yeah, you know, this is not to be confused with the matter that's going to be a subject of public hearing a week from tonight here. This is about the manufacture, distribution, storage, retail, sale, and wholesale of fireworks, you know, professional grade fireworks, you know, excluding the little packets of novelties that you can buy at Target. So nobody is saying Target can't sell the glowworms or the snakes or the sparklers or the snappers, party poppers, et cetera, et cetera. Though you still need to treat those items with respect. Those are not the items we're talking about. I don't think there's anybody here who would disagree, and I'm sure they'll speak up if they do with respect to whether we want to get into the business of manufacturing or warehousing professional grade fireworks in this community. Always open to hear the rationale, but I don't think we're going to find that here tonight. Does anybody have anything they'd care to add? Now, what would be the appropriate action here, Mr. Bryan? Would it be to recommend passage?
Yes.
And probably to ask if there's any public comment. I mean, I don't mind asking that. Does anybody have any public comment on this? You think we should, you know, raise how many fingers you have left if you like playing with fireworks? Okay, okay. All right. If seeing no public comment, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to the city council passage of ordinance 2025-07.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Mr. Rychek. Any discussion? Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mayor Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rycheck,
Yes.
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Motion carries. There being no further items, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rock. Mrs. Thomas, call the roll,
Mayor
please.
Brennan,
Yes,
Mr. Rycheck,
Yeah.
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
we're adjourned.